Hope the lockdown's going well. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. Ko te tangi tenei a tamali, ka wara e tukuna ke kurangi a koe e te iwi tamli. Ngā whakaro, ngā waiaro, o honga ake ka ki te tenei no mai anō. E rangi mo te oranga nui me no ho pai anō. Ke tūpato chief ke huri koe hei kai ako. Te nākahi, e hare ana i te pātiti, e whai ana ke ano hoko te tika, te toko iti. Me ua ka whiti pene anō i te priti, tori whakapaparanga kātahi pēr te rā ka whiti. Nā whai anō tā tātou ini ki tua o tipsy, tūronga waiwai kore ko tōna rite e gypsy. Anā, ko tātou te rai ai nei, no pira pēna hoa nā, we can't fly away. Tohunga suppression, that means we must hide away. Make sure the pillars were soft so we could die away. Ha! Ko te atua tōku piringa, as long as we believe on this one, no ko whiringa. Ki te kore, well, you know, I'm in it. So we all take off our hats and go, I'm in it, I'm in it, I'm in it. Yeah. I'm in it, I'm in it, I'm in it. Yeah. How does it feel to be house standing on your own land? That's why my man, I sing my song. Toru whāri ma banga whakapaparanga. Disconnected, that's the makutu we under oppression. I ain't trying to bring us down, it's just something I don't hear much in this generation. E pene me te hip hop, mo te nereanga, must be scared ana, hence why I'm here to raise the bar. I'm a modern day Māori, more real than most. But whakaiti be fucking with my need to boast. This mana mo tu haki te be getting old, cause they mining our data and selling to our soul. Me pehera, they ki te anga mahi tōtika, especially when our screen time's up in them figures. Kana te Māori, hope they whakaoho mai, but if they don't, at least I know that you will paki mai. Mai ia ngā tani whao te auho. Mai ia, cause intrinsically we know it's time to go. Mai ia, cause we need you at your best. This is only me putting my yeah to the test.
Ka tauha whakatau ko te rangi etu nei, ka tauha whakatau ko te papa e tauto nei, ka tauha whakatau ko te Taumata Kōrero ngā mātua kua mene ki te pō, ka tiei, mauri ora e ngai ui o te motu. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome back to the Taumata Kōrero, the lockdown edition, the quintessential space, wait for it, to disseminate a little bit of esoteric knowledge. I am the man in the hot seat, Mr. Anita Harrison, back in his house, ready to drop some esoteric knowledge for you all at 7:03 tonight, the last night of level 4 lockdown for the majority of us. E hoama, if you have been following us on Instagram, you would have seen we have a bit of a manuhiri on the taumata tonight. Let's bring him in live and direct from lockdown, the last night of lockdown, the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, the mystery, and everything else you want to call him. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Stan Walker, e te tuakana e Stan. Enough, brother. Kei te pēhea.
No, kei te pai, kei te orama, bro.
have you had an intro like that before? That is energy. Anyone want to talk energy, bro? That is energy.
Hey, I wasn't ready for that, bro.
Bro, talk to me off the bat, bro. How does lockdown look for Stan Walker, bro? How's it been?
Bro, it's actually been really, really quiet. A lot of cooking, a lot of cleaning. Hey, there's only 3 of us in the house. We've got me, Lou, and Son, and I'll tell you now, it's just the constant cleaning for me. Sometimes I just give up.
I know a lot of Māori men around the country, well, men full stop around the country are hearing you on that one, bro. How's the pile of dishes looking? Are you getting the whip cracked there? Stan, come and do these dishes. Hurry up, big.
Bro, that's the one thing I hate, is dishes. I stare at the dishes and have little arguments with them. I'm like, don't look at me. Don't look at me. And I kind of just put them to the side and wait for Lou to get up and just have a little chat. I was like, oh, thank you, my love. I'll back him up.
Bro, let's get into it, bro. Let's get into it and start this wānanga, bro. This seems a bit of a awkwardly weird question to ask someone who has been in the spotlight for so long. But break it down for us, bro. Tell us a bit about yourself. Who is Stan Walker? Tell us a bit about yourself. Ngā mana, ngā tapu kei runga i a koe.
Oh, geez. I'm almost 31. That's weird. Well, no tauranga moana hau.
Kia ora.
Actually, I'm from the whole of the Rohe Tūhoe, Ngāti Piki au Tūhaurani, Ngaitahu, Ngāti Porau, everywhere. But I feel like I'm just a student of life and just a young Māori, just trying to be everything that I'm supposed to be. Not that I can be, but I'm supposed to be because of all who came before us. We are now their legacy, and we're now their dreams come true. So it's only fit and fair that we actually assume the role of being incredible, of being amazing, being entrepreneurs. We be everything because it was already the path was already paved for us. Now we got to walk. So I feel like I haven't been asked that question in a long time, and I feel like even now I answer it different from what I would have answered last year. So
Yeah.
I think I'm being everything that I'm supposed to be, and I can honestly say that I'm living my actual ultimate dream, and that might not be anybody else's dream, but for me, these are like dreams that I buried to now have come back to life. I feel like a little bit of an old man
Why is
in
that,
some
bro?
ways.
Why do you feel like an old man, brother?
Oh, because I was always go, do everything, be there, always around people. But now I'm like, can't wait to get home. Can't wait to get home to my family. Can't wait to go home and cook dinner. The lockdown, I mean, I got no choice. I've got to do it all. But like, I do love it, bro. And from the last lockdown to now, bro, I'm two completely different people. But the last lockdown, I was tragic. I was a tragic person, and I was going through a midlife blooming crisis for so many different reasons and so many different areas of my life. And now it's come like more than a full circle that I'm like here, being everything that I want to be and everything that I should be with the best people in my life. Like, bro, it's mean.
There's that meme that's floating around on Instagram at the moment, and it says to never ever forget there was a time in your life when you prayed to be the person that you are today. And that, like,
Yeah,
as cheesy, as cliche as that is, bro, I vibe with that, bro. That's me need to understand that, like,
yeah,
when we talk about, you struck me as the type of man who's really into self-development and being a student of life, bro, and feeling and experiencing all of these things that life throws at us.
yeah.
Talk me through that, bro.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've learned a lot of hard lessons and I've learned the hard way. And I think that's just me and my personality and how I was always going to be a rebel, go against the system. When somebody says, don't touch the hot stove, I have to touch it just to see if it's hot. Oh, it's hot. So I've learned a lot of hard lessons and I've put myself in a lot of those places. You know, there's been a lot of circumstances that I have no control over, but I always have control over my actions. And I've gone left when I should have gone right a lot of the times. And so I was just actually talking to my missus today about it. I was just like, man, I've learned some hard lessons. I was just like, man, I've had to do it. Why do I always do it the wrong way or the hard way when it's already been paved out? Learn from my mistakes. I'm like, no. I need to learn like hands on. Okay, burnt the hands. So, but in saying that, I've come to a place where like, yeah, I'm satisfied, bro. So I don't have to go and try something to see if I can do something or see if it's gonna test it. Now I know, like I'm scared, bro. I'm fearful of things. Like I used to be reckless and smash my body in sports and just doing like, yeah, the boys. Well, you do this, I'll do it. Now I'm like, oh nah, I'm gonna get
Yeah,
cold, or my elbows are sore, or nah, I got sore knees, or nah, then I'm gonna be wet all day, or so, like whatever the circumstances. Like I'm quite safe because I know what I've got now is quality, and I don't want to mess it up. And to be honest, I still mess it up, and I'm still going to mess it up. But I'm very conscious of what I have, and to be grateful for what I have now, because what I have now is everything. Like you said, that meme, what I pray for.
beautiful, brother, beautiful. Bro, let's keep moving our discussion. I want to take you back. I want to take you back on a journey through time. Once upon a time, there was I think, correct me if I'm wrong, an 18-year-old Stan Walker walked into an Australian Idol audition room. What was going through your mind the 5 seconds, 10 seconds before you entered that door?
Oh, well, I had a plan, eh? I had a plan. Get in there. I had practiced it from when I was 12 years old, singing it to my family in the lounge and pretending, Kia ora, I'm Stan. I had a plan of what I was going to do. When I got in there, the plan went out. And I just went like hot. And I was just like, whoa. And I sung what I wanted to sing. And then I thought I killed it, bro. I sung Circle of Life from The Lion King, my favorite song in the world. And then they just said, oh, do you have something more modern? And I actually didn't have anything. And so I did Ordinary People on the spot, and I didn't even know. So it was like they said they have something prepared, but I'm thinking, oh, bro, I've got it with this song. Don't worry. Like I was so confident in myself that the Circle of Life was going to take me, and it didn't. It got cut from the TV thing. So I just went in, and I was like, I was nervous, but when I sung, it came out. It came out, and I thought I was going to be like stuttering. I thought I was going to stutter and shake, but yeah, the plan kind of failed, but it turned out all right, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting to follow your journey, bro, from that 18-year-old Stan Walker that walked into that audition room to where you are now, bro. Let's start moving along that chronological timeline. Oh, I can hear myself. I can hear a bit of feedback. E pai ana, kia haere tonu ngā kōrero. Let's walk along that chronological timeline, bro. Talk us through what life was like immediately after winning Australian Idol. For a small town Maori boy, that must have been massive, bro.
Bro, it was huge. Like I didn't know what I was getting myself into. At the same time, like I've always been like if somebody tells me to do something and I don't agree or if it doesn't sit right with me, I'm gonna come back and go, but why? I've always been a but why? Or just rebel. Um, and so I went in like just kind of all like, wow, this is amazing, and just did everything, and I just said yes to everything, and I was just like, whoa, I never had a car before, and I was just like, when we were on Idol, we were getting paid $600 a week. I was only getting $230 a week working part time. And then I had to clean the house. We lived on 3 levels, and I had to vacuum, mop, clean the kitchen, do 3 loads of washing before I had to go to Mahi because my mum was like, she was strict as. And so for me seeing this money, and I'm like, whoa, this is free money. And I'd never had money to go and buy clothes before. So I just started buying clothes, and I was just so overwhelmed, and I was just like, whoa. And people were like saying, hi, Stan Walker. And I was like, whoa. And the first thing I wanted, I was just like, I need to take my whānau. So the first promo tour I did, I had my brother playing guitar for me, my best friends at the time, and I moved in with Irina Clark, Auntie Irina. So she took me under her wing, and so they were with me everywhere because I was I didn't even then I knew like I was always attracted to people that were like me because I might have been Stan Walker on the TV, and that was the kind of dressed up version where I had to learn how to speak English. Because I remember when I went onto the show, they pulled me aside on one of the episodes. They came home and filmed for 3 days with the whānau packages.
Yeah.
3 days of filming, and they pulled me in a meeting and they said, "Oh, Stan, we're gonna have to reshoot everything." And I was like, "What?" They're like, "We can't understand a word you're saying, and we're gonna put you through speech therapy because your words, because I will sound like this or whatever." So I taught myself how to speak like, "Hey guys, my name's Stan Walker. I'm so excited to be here," which sounds stupid as, but I had to speak like that because I was always looked at as dumb. So I was already in the fight. So I went in like, wow, this is amazing. But also I was like, I just from the moment of when I started Idol to starting in the industry and then being an artist and having to fight for my spot after being catapulted to the top, like to fight straight away. I was encountering just like just racism and just always looked down upon, like always like, oh yeah, a lot. And it like but I'm thick skinned. Like
Yeah.
I've always been like, bro, like nobody can mock you worse than your cousins at the marae. They know your deepest, darkest insecurities, and it's on a daily where they'll it just comes out. So I was like ready for it. But I'd never experienced that kind of systemic racism because I never was in anywhere enough to experience that besides school.
Mm.
we are, you know, few comments, but I didn't understand that then. I didn't even know what racism was back, you know, back when I was at high school. I didn't understand that. I didn't even know
Yeah.
half the words that I speak now. So yeah, I was like, I went in and I was going in already battling and going in so like full of like zealous, bro. I was so green and fresh. Everything was like, I was listening to one of my songs and I redid it, bro. It was like the song's called Inside Out. I was like, this is all of me. This is who I am. You can see this is from the inside out. Take me as I am. This is all of me. Like I would crack up at the lyrics and I'm like, what a, hey, what a
Well, then
baby.
talk me through that, bro. Like, I think those avid listeners of your music catalog will notice a marked a difference, a massive difference between um, that radio pretty boy Stan Walker, that little black box edition of Stan Walker that time. And then when I think about the more recent stuff like New Takeover, for instance,
Yeah.
that's Stan Walker. Two completely different people, two completely different artists, bro. Talk me about the differences that exist between those two people and how and the space in between the two, bro.
I feel like the person that I've become, like, you know, since like New Takeover, that was a pivotal time in my life, because that was everything against the system that I'd been a part of and all the systemic racism and these comments from here, then everywhere, just and even blackmailing from the industry. You need to be this, and if you don't do this, and never mind about these Maoris or those poor people over there, you're not like those Maoris. This is what they used to say constantly, all the time. There's Australia and even little, yeah, and a bit in New Zealand too. And so I was a little boy who used to wear league shorts every day, bare feet every day, or jandals and a singlet, and I had a rat tail. And now I think I'm kind of the pure older version of that now, but more refined, like
Kia
in
ora.
terms of like who I am, and I'm more educated in who I am. I've always been who I am, but there were many times I had to hide that because it wasn't going to sell and I looked like a joke, and I was the joke in the room.
Mm,
Everybody wanted my voice, but they didn't want me. They didn't want like they just saw me as I'm rebellious, I'm ungrateful, I'm this and that. And like I don't want to, it's not about complaining, like bro, everything has brought me to this place now, but this is what my reality was. And so I became, and I didn't know too who I was as an artist. So I was growing. I was growing. But in terms of that little Maori boy, it's just now, like in the last 6, 7 years, just come out and sprouted and just actually been able to sprout whatever it looks like,
kia ora.
whatever. And so yeah, the transition was a big one, and X Factor, being a judge on X Factor, was the turning point because I'd come to a point where I was done with what I was doing in Australia, and here I was being a mentor for these contestants, and I kind of felt fraudulent. And I got to a point where I started doing songs, and I'm like, okay, if they don't take me really as I am, and I don't do what I want, I'm done. I got turned away. I did a song, Bulletproof,
Yeah, yeah.
and Bulletproof went number one. It's whatever platinum it is. I went number one. I got told it will never work. That's a reggae song. First of all, it's not reggae. It's got a skank in it. They're like, never, reggae will never work. Leave it for those brown people, those Maoris over there. Never mind about them. It's never gonna work in Australia. Came back, released the song, went number one, and then the next week that why you gotta be so rude came out in Australia, and like this is the new sound, and I was like, so you don't actually got my back. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was a pivotal point, and then I started becoming um, I started shedding all the stuff that I put on. Like I put on a lot of masks and I
Mm,
started taking it all off, and I was like rediscovering myself for the first time and rediscovering myself again. It
mm.
was buzzy. It was a buzzy time.
Let's talk about let's run with that because that strikes and I know that'll strike a lot of us at home as very interesting in taking some of those masks off, some of those masks that you talk about. If we could put the foot down a bit on the conversation and kind of get into some of those masks that you were wearing in that time and how they and that process of taking them off and the way that process is manifested through your creative stylings, through your music, through your fashion, through your art, all of those sorts of things, bro. What sort of masks are we talking about?
Um, the reason why I got into this industry, and when like God had given me a vision way back when I was like 17, and He had
Mm,
shown me who I was to be, who I was called to be, and what my future was going to look like. my heart and my passion has always been for our people, for Tanata Whenua. It's
Kia ora.
always been Māori people and Indigenous people and Pacifica people, but our people. As a little kid, I used to dream about coming back home to Taumata Kōrero. I used to dream about standing on our grass. I used to dream about standing on my mauna. Like I used to dream that as a little kid, and I always thought I was weird. I was like, why do I dream and have this yearning as a kid to come home? And I always had it. The longer we lived in Aussie, the more I wanted to come home. It was like I was homesick, and it used to make me feel sick. And so that's been always my dream. And so, you know, going through what I had to go through, coming back home, I made choices through that people don't even know, but they were choices that I made to make a stand. Because I remember people like, oh, you know, you want to be like Chris Brown? And I was like, man, I love Chris Brown and Beyonce. Beyonce's the one. But why can't we be our own Chris Browns and our own Beyonces? And bro, it takes me back to when I did Mount Zion. My character Ture was telling his dad and all his whānau, why can't we be our own misters and get our own trucks? Why do we have to work for the man? Why do we have to be this when we can be our own workers and have our own trucks? And it hit me randomly, and I was like, nah. So I made a choice that in every video clip that I've done since You Never Know, which was years ago in LA, that I'm only going to get Maori, Pacific, Indigenous people representation in my videos, because I was like, why not? It's not that I don't want anybody else, but I want us constantly represented, constantly. Not as in like I'm trying to prove a point. I just love the way we look. I love the way we sound. We've got the best stylists, the best camera crew, we got the best directors, we got the best makeup artists, we got everything. Why do we have to go anywhere else? We're always told, go out there and do this and do something for life. I've gone all the way out there to come all the way back here to find actually the gold is in Ruatoki, the gold is in Ruatoria, the gold is in Whananui and Parikino. The gold is there, and I just finished shooting my video here because we live in Whananui, and this is where Lou's from. Man, I go down the Awa and I'm like, wow, this is the gold. Our, you know, Tawa Tupua will be way on par to the biggest wonders of the world, because first of all, this is the only Awa in the world that has a title of a human being. Like that's like, you know, like I had to come back, and so those changes I made, and I made a big stand when I did New Takeover. And I remember saying what I was going to do for the video, because every time I write a song or do a song, if I can't see what it looks like in the video, then it's going to be like, whatever. And so we wrote the song, and then that same day, the next day, I went and got the costumes, and we didn't even film the video clip until like a year and a bit later. And everything that I wanted to do, we did. We got on horses, and I specifically wanted a big black Frisian horse because it was a place of power. Any movie, you see those big black stallions, and there's somebody on there, they're the boss. And I wanted to carry those flags. I wanted us to be represented in a beautiful, strong way of how I have seen my nannies and my karawa, like how I've seen all, you know, like that's how I've seen them, even though they're old and frail. Bro, one word, they will silence a whole room. They will bring the biggest gangsters people to their knees. You know, when Nan looks over, hey, doesn't matter what you're wearing. Oh, sorry, Nan. So like those are my transitions, and I just kept getting stronger and stronger and more confident too, because when I first started, like even saying kia ora, kei te pēhea, or tēnā koe, or paira wātu on X Factor, don't speak that Maori crap, stop shoving it down our thing. And I'm like, is this actually a thing? I didn't know that the rest of Aotearoa can be like that. I didn't know, because I grew up on the marae. There was the white as day kids and the black as nights, but we were all one. We didn't have there was no different, and we were just all the same. We spoke the same, acted the same. We all fought together, had each other's backs, ate together, bathed together, everything. So I had to, that all those little things, it was like making little stands in every little area of my life, and then making bigger statements through waiata. And I've always done it in waiata. And the thing with music, bro, it's the most powerful and influential tool that can change people, heal people, bring reconciliation, hope, and power, and inspire people in a way, even if you didn't want to learn. Don't tell me to say kia ora. Next minute they say no tapiti, no tata. So, you know, you're still a little bit like that. The people don't know, you just leave it in there.
Bro, let's keep moving our conversation forward. There was a time in your career when you went off the radar. And no, to be honest, I don't know if you know this, bro, but nobody from the outside looking in kind of knew what was going on. And then we get these Pākehā publications like the Herald saying, "Oh, Stan Walker's on illicit drugs. This is why he's gone through all this weight loss, and he's doing this, and he doesn't, or he's lost the wind from his sails is gone, and he's run out of content to produce. That's why he's gone missing," and all of these sorts of things. Tell us why Stan Walker went missing in that particular time span in your career. Talk me through that, bro. What happened in there?
I went to go and get a tummy tuck. Nah. Well, yeah, I had cancer, and there's something that I had no control over, and it was like one of the most, and I won't even say just it was one of the most difficult, but incredible journeys of my life. And this is something that I had to. Otherwise, if I didn't get my puku out, then I'd be dead. I would have been dead back in 2018. So, got it in 2017, I would have deteriorated and I would have just rotted into nothing, like way skinnier than what people see me.
So what sort of cancer are we talking about, bro? What's the like medical diagnosis of it all?
So it's stomach cancer, gastric cancer. It's called we have a gene, rare mutation gene called CDH1, and it's carried through our whānau, and so it goes through both my mother and my father's side. My father doesn't got it. They come from the same whānau. Whakapapa, keep that strong. Keep the whenua strong, whānau. But I got it through my mum. So my mum had the gene. She got breast cancer like not long before me. Then I had the gene. I found out that I had stomach cancer, and so my mum went through her breast cancer journey, and then she was going through her healing, and then I came down, got my puku, and yeah, it was just kind of like just over and over. And then my cousins got cancer, and so it was just like it was, I don't know, it's like for some people it sounds traumatic. For us, I think I don't know if we deal with it the right way. It's something that we've had to live with our whole lives, that's what's normal. You get the sadness, but you kind of have to just like, okay, shut up now, what do? We gotta just go, we gotta carry on, we gotta get it done.
We were talking off screen earlier, bro, and I was relaying. There's the scene in the documentary Stan, which was on 2 years ago, and you were driving down the main road towards Taumata marae. And I will never ever, this is like vivid in my mind. You were pointing out to the reporter, whoever was covering the documentary, you were going like it was just anything. You were going, "Oh yeah, she died from stomach cancer. The one that lives in that house. Yep, 3 of them died in there. Yep, one of them over there died. Yep, one of them over there died." And you were just going down the road, and there was like up to like 20 to 30 members of the Walker and McLeod whānau who had been taken by this, bro. This is ko ngā Māori kite ana e rongo ana I rā kōrero ka whakaaro e hoama he mate Māori tērā. How, talk me through that, bro? Like how has that been dealing with that in a Māori spiritual space?
Bro, that was I've learned a lot more as I've gotten older, because I've become without trying to, but I've kind of come the poster boy because of who I am. So if it can help other people, if it can help other whānau, other people all around the world, and there's education around this mate, then so I've had to learn more. And it's not just like, oh yeah, they got the gene, I got the gene, cancer, get the puku out, whatever. Long before I was even thought of, our family were dropping like flies. 12 years old, 16 years old, in their 20s, 30s. Like a lot of Maiko Matua died. I didn't realize they died so young, but they had so many kids. They were just dying, and they, a lot of whānau thought there was a makutu. And that's what, because Māori, that's what we everything's spiritual, everything is spiritual. We didn't know what genetics was in terms of like that. We never heard those terms back in the rā. They never talked about, DNA, genetics. But my nan, she was a nurse, and she was like, nah, there's something not right here. There's something not right. So she actually got my koro and all my other nannies and aunties and uncles, and they started this committee thing, and they wanted to find find what was happening to our whānau, if they could find it in a medical, scientific way. So they found this scientist, Dr. Perry, from Otago, to help. Like, they were just calling out for help. My nan just started it, and they were like, "Okay, we need to do something." And they found this genetic mutation within us. But in order to do that and to do that science, they had to go to Ratanapā and go to the Temepara, and they had to do a kawenata, because what they had to do was go against tikana. They had to get, our, parts from our tūpāpaku and get their parts and study them. And,
True.
that's against, bro. So it was a big, half our whānau, like, "Oh, we can't do that. We're Māori. We just don't do that." But they were like, "No," Nanny Maybach, she's like, "No, because our people are dying. We have to try something different." And so they did that. And my koro, he went there, and they had a little secret committee where they went and did this, and basically he did this kawenata to use his body as a sacrifice, and he said, "I will use my body as a sacrifice so that my mokos can live," not knowing that through his operation and the failure of his operation, and he died from that. Because of that, bro, thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the whole world, bro, are alive because of my koro. And he did it for us, bro. Not knowing that his 3 mokos were gonna get cancer. So it was like when I look at that, bro, it's like, and that's a rangatira, that's a rangatira. And in terms of like the colonial world that we live in, and they lived in, where the reo was, beaten out of them, they still operated in a Māori way, in a non-Māori situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's let's keep moving there, and let's run with that, bro. Oh, we've got a guest host coming in, my 3-year-old, my 4-year-old daughter. Lockdown,
Hey, I'm locked away in the room. I can hear her yelling at me.
Bro, so let's keep following that discussion about your korua, bro. Like how as the mokopuna.
Kia ora.
Live on the Taumata Kōrero. Bro, let's keep working with that, bro. How for you as the mokopuna of that man who gave himself, his body, his cancer, as a sacrifice, as you call it, bro. For the mokopuna, how has that been? Do you realize the privilege? I don't know if you could call it privilege, bro, but to understand death so much. Like not many people have been privy to so much death, which is something that strikes me as strange for someone in your position as a superstar, as a musical sensation. You know this intrinsically human concept of death so well because it's in your whakapapa. You've seen it.
Yeah, bro. It's like, for me, bro, I like, there'll be times where like the video for Thank You will pop up, and I watched the documentary like the end of last year again, and I'd seen it a few times. There was a few screenings and stuff like that, and I watched it with Lou, and I kind of like, I didn't really cry on some of them, but I cried because of the fact that my koko, like, I don't even, I think maybe if I'm that age and just even being who I am now, having my little whānau and everything like that, I can see now for the first time what it's like to, it wasn't even a thing. I'm gonna save my mokos. Like, I'm gonna, like, that blows my mind, bro. He literally did that. Like, he did that, and I'm alive, bro. And I'm alive to tell the tales, you tell the stories, bro. I'm alive to be that I'm that living legacy, bro. That living whakapapa that he gave us life for, and that I get to now create legacy for the next generation, that they get better, bro. That my ceiling, bro, is gonna be this boy's floor. It's gonna be my nephews and nieces' floor, bro. It's gonna be your kids' floor. My ceiling, my greatest heights of heights in the mountaintops, bro. Is just they're gonna step on and go, oh yeah. Like even, bro, my niece, Ivy, she's on tour, the song tour, bro. She's talking to 660, talking to Benny, and they're like, oh, you must be so nervous coming to perform at the musicals. Nah, I've been doing since I was 2, and she ain't lying. She's been on so many TV shows with me. But she knows now, she has a confidence, bro, that I still wish I had. I don't have that confidence. That's a natural confidence because she's now stepping on our shoulders, and so she should. When I look at the kids now, I kind of got a revelation not so long ago. I was like, really, these little tickles getting the meanest lunches and not eating. I was like, nah. And I went to go do the standard. Oh, back when I was a kid, I got nothing. I was like, and so they should. So they should get all this mean lunch. Hey, but still be grateful. So
Bro,
yeah, like yeah.
let's keep moving our conversation, bro. I want to talk through or actually, like we were talking in the waiting room earlier on, I was telling you about the time I went to a wānanga at Mangahanea Marae. This would have been about 3 months ago. And we were down at Tūparoa. Those of our viewers who know where Tūparoa is, a seaside settlement, just on the coastline of Ruatoria. Anyway, we pull up in a somewhat flash van. Those of you know, we took a van to Tūparoa. Anyway, we pulled up on a flash van, and this 10-year-old boy comes running out to the van, and he comes running up to me, and he goes, bro, that's a flash van. And I go, yeah, mean van, eh, bro? And he goes, bro, Stan Walker was here a couple of weeks ago. He had a flash van too. And I was like, true. And I go to him, well, you tell Stan Walker the next time he comes to Tūparoa that he is the second most best singer from Tūparoa and I'm the first. And he goes to me, he goes, oh, he's looking at me and he goes, oh, how many CDs have you done? And I go, no, I don't need to. And I went to begin to explain myself, bro. I went to go explain myself that I hadn't done any CDs. And he goes, yeah, well, Stan Walker's done heaps, so shut up, bro. And he ran off, bro. Talk to me about that, bro, about reconnecting with whakapapa. That strikes me as you being in a place Tūparoa. A lot of people will know you as being Tamapāhore, Tauranga, Moana, Mauao, and all of those places in Tauranga. But to hear that you've got connections out to into Ruatoria, into Tūparoa, talk us how important that connection, that sense of connection is, bro.
I was lucky enough to be brought up with all my nannies and koros, eh? Like my mum and dad took us to all sides all the time. And so I used to sit with my nannies and they would tell me the stories and sit with my karawa and they would give me the whakapapa and it'd be on their walls and they'd have, like in some of it, my ohia whānau, it's at one of our houses, it's on the wall, it's written on the wall. And my mum was always a photo lady. So now I'm the photo fella. Go to the whare, I'm like, oh, can I get your photo album? So I'm getting out the photos. So it's kind of been in me. I've always been taken around to all the whānau houses and once I started diving in about maybe 9-10 years ago, I started diving into, I was like, how is that person my nanny? How is that person my auntie? Because, you grow up and then you just start asking questions like, oh, that's my auntie, but how? And then you find out how, you're like, whoa, Buzzy, related like 5 ways. Wow. But and so that started intriguing me. I started feeling that I wanted to know how I was related to people. Then I wanted to know where I come from. And then there's that saying, you got to go back to where you come from. I was like, I think that's only one part of it. It's not just where you come from, but who you come from. Once you find that out, man, you can't be the same. And once I started finding out who my tupuna were, bro, they were gangsters, bro. These are people that have been written about. They got photos taken of them. They got stories and places named after them. And I was like, I'm a direct descendant of that person. So and then I'm like, now I have to be great. Because, bro, they were incredible. My nanny Nāpera from Ruatoki in the 80s used to ride a horse from Ruatoki to Tauranga to come see her kids in the 80s, bro. I got to imagine just even riding down there. Now on my baby bum, far out, I wouldn't get past them in 100 meters.
Couldn't get to tāne atua.
So hard. Couldn't even get to whakatane. But so for me, going back to Tūparoa, because I know I'm real I've always been real connected ever since I was a kid to my tūhoi side. I'm the only one that really has that kind of honona to my tūhoe, so that just like, bro, it just like it's like it pulled my weight out, bro. Everything. When I used to always stay with my uncles and aunties, and they didn't speak English, I used to just love listening to the reo because my mum and dad don't speak Māori. And then my uncle and them would start growling me if I spoke English, and I was like, kore, I'm just coming in as a not even a novice. I just went to kohana, and then I went to I was in the Māori unit in high school, but it was like like they just sounded like that when you talk about like reo, like, you know, kai of the gods, you know, the fruit of the god. And I was like, when I used to hear them, like, oh god, like, you know, every, like, you know, all those ones from Rua. And so then not even like later now, it's like that's whakapapa when I'm hearing that, and it's tasteful to me and it feels natural for me, and I don't even know that side, but then suddenly I'm going to that side. Then I went to Tūparoa and said, my dad's like, he's a staunch walker, he loves it, he's a coastie boy. He goes, hey son, you see all those kids, they look like me, eh? I was like, they actually do. Like, I can look around, I was like, far out, they all look like my bloody father. So like that stuff, when you start seeing people that look like you, seeing people that sound like you, going to the urupa, bro, that for me is one of the most beautiful things, when you can see where your tupuna lay, bro. Like for me, I'm like, che, man, che koro. I'm like, yeah, I come from you. I'm like,
bro, I think you and I are a part of, and this isn't to speak negatively of the generations above us, bro. But by my read, bro, I believe you and I are part of the generation who are actively seeking to make those reconnections again,
yeah,
bro. And I think I can hear myself. The ability to make ourselves vulnerable enough to go into spaces like Tūparoa, like you know, both of us, bro. You growing up in
yeah,
Tauranga, myself growing up in Whānau, bro. I don't know anybody in Tūparoa, but one of my ancestors lies there. But it takes a certain amount of curiosity, I think, is a big one.
yeah,
And that vulnerability to say, okay, I'm bringing myself right back down to earth here, literally in the
yeah,
most literal sense, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to try and meet some people, connect some dots, find out how I was here once upon a time and how I ended up so far removed from that part of my family. Bro, talk me through how you see the potency of that concept, that our generation making ourselves vulnerable to just go and do the mahi, like get involved with your other side. Like we all have that one side, eh? Every Māori has like
yeah,
that one side. Like for you, hey, my read, that's Tauranga. For me,
yeah,
I'm up north. But by the same time, like I'm meeting some of my relations from the East Coast and I'm thinking, you remind me of my uncles. This is out of it.
yeah,
We all grew up north, bro. Took me through that for you.
yeah. Yeah, bro. I'm the same. Like we were just in Rotorua like a little while ago, and I went to my marae at Whakarewarewa for the first time. Um, and I think I've been there as a little kid, but I like, bro, our roots run so deep into Ngāti Pikiao, to Haurani, Ngāti Wahiao. Like,
Kia ora.
bro, we got land all over the place, bro. And but I'm not I have no interest in land. I have interest in whakapapa to the land and where my people stood, where my people lay, and so that when I get older and my kids get older, they know where they can stand. Not like, oh, this is my land, where's my dividends? I don't care about that, bro. My goal, I have my only goal is so that I will know where I stand, where I can stand, where I can lay, where I can see my tupuna. And so I like, bro, like I got over being scared because now I'm just hungry for it. So I'm annoying. I start talking to people and they're like, oh bro, and don't have a drink with me because we will go straight to whakapapa. I tell Lou, I'm like, hun, if I start talking whakapapa, stop me. I can't help it, bro, because I've been it now. I'm now at that age where it is what it is. I
Yeah.
got no like, oh, maybe should I talk? I was like, how are you from? No, how are you? Like, you know, like just little things like that. And so it just makes me feel more powerful, bro. I feel so much more powerful. And I go home and tell the stories. I tell my mum and dad because my mum and dad now live through me in a way.
Kia ora.
And I always say to him, I was like, it ain't over till it's over. It's never too late. I was like, come, let's go back. And he goes, oh yeah, my dad, hey, he's always ready to go to power walks down the coast. He's for the coast. He's coasty through and through. He said, yeah, I'm a hati nati. Never mind all that taurana lot. And I was like, oh, Papa, that's all you're in. He goes, nah, I'm a coastie. Tūparoa. So, yeah, I'm trying to find all those connections and take my whānau back. So every year, I take a group back to Ratoki. I take a group back. I take my cousins back, and I tell them, I was like, this is where we come from, bro. This is our homestead there. I was like, our great nanny used to live there. Man, she brought all her kids up there. This is where we all come from. This is where your parents used to go and stay when they were naughty. Where your dad got kicked down there with my dad. And they're like, hey, cuz, hey, yeah, cuz. So when you're excited and you start learning, and then you can get your whānau excited, bro. I just feel like, there's this generation, and saying that too, we don't have that. Our parents and our grandparents we come from a generation where, I feel, and I could be wrong, but this is, toku whakaaro, I feel like that, that vulnerability was, beaten out of them and worked out of them, and so many things, that they couldn't be vulnerable because they were at different stages of survival. When now we can talk about, oh, I love you, brother. Man, my heart's hurting. I'm going through a bad time. Have you ever seen your father back, talk like that? Your grandfather, it was like this because they didn't know that was lost through colonization. That was lost. That was taken from us. Our real was taken from us. Our everything, and then suddenly we're these once we're warriors, and this is who we are as Māori. I was like, no, that's a blooming through colonization that we've been put into these, turned into these beasts that you called us when you came over from wherever. But we're not. We're actually beautiful, loving.
Yeah.
So
Bro,
we're taking back that aroha.
I'm of the belief, bro, that I don't know, maybe people do, but I'm of the belief that we as Maori don't fully understand the true potency of what that statement means, that te reo Māori was beaten out of our ancestors. Yes, I patua o tātou mātua mo te kōrero Māori nui hone te take. But what else? We have to ask that question, start asking that question of ourselves. What else was beaten out of them that goes along with the reo, that goes along with these linguistic tendencies? What else? The tikanga that underpin our language, and those ways of behaving, that way of being, that is manifested through our language. Koira ke ko ngā mea I patua. Kia puta I o tātou mātua. Those were the things that were hit out of our ancestors, I think, bro. So you bring up some amazing points, bro. And what would you say to those who I know a lot who do watch this podcast, who do listen to this podcast, are on that whole reo Māori journey, reclamation, rejuvenation, renormalization buzz, bro? What would you say to those that lot? Us, our people, who are in that same space, looking to reconnect and re-engage?
Man, just go hard. Who cares? Who cares if you get it wrong? I'm constantly getting it wrong, and I'm still feel like I'm a kohana. And it was a big pride for me because, I do know who I am and the title that I hold and who I represent to people, that I should be this and I should be that. But the matter of fact is, I'm just not a lot of things. I'm not all there. I don't have it all. I'm not this. I'm not fluent. I'm always happy and always positive and humble. That's just not a reality. That's not my reality. I do have those attributes and I do have part of it there, but I'm always on a journey of I'm always going to be getting there. And so when I enrolled to Te Awanuiarani, that was I felt shame because I should be more, and then I had to get over myself, and I was like, well, if I think that, well, then I got to be more. I just got to do it. I'm only stopping myself. So I think just, it doesn't matter if the only word you can say kia ora, or if you can't even say kia ora properly, go hard, man. There's a lot of elitists out there that, I ain't kind of be at the morning. I'm like, well, teach me then. If you're gonna sit there, go ba ba ba, show me, teach me. I was like, man. So I encourage anybody, and I at home we always try and speak Māori, and in certain places in Aotearoa within my whānau, they only speak Māori, which I love because I got no choice, and I'm sitting there sweating a little bit, and I just reply in English, and then I'm like, but like, just ka kaha koutou. I just think our reo is so beautiful that you're missing out on an opportunity to learn who you are and who we are as Aotearoa and who we are as Māori, as tanata whenua. Like, you know, like when I think even like tanata whenua, you know, people of the land, I was like, learn the reo of like, man, the little that I've learned in little wānana and from my graua queer uncles and aunties, it's and friends, and even in this space, I'm like, wow, we're on. It's so beautiful. It's like this, like other universe. It's like out. It's like something that can't be. Oh, it's yeah, it's incredible, and I just encourage everybody to just go hard. Who cares? I get it wrong all the time.
That makes two of us, bro. That makes two of us. Bro, well, eke ki te rima te kai minute, we've just hit 50 minutes, bro, so I want to start wrapping us up. But before we start the wrap up of what has been an amazing wānanga tonight, I've actually got a burning question, bro, and the question popped up when I saw you pop up on my Facebook singing with the kapahaka te piki kōtuku o Ngāti Rongomai, and I was going a bit, I know a lot of te ao Māori were going, oh, is that right, Stan Walker, eh? Jumping in there with Ngāti Rongomai. So in a few months we have te matatini on our doorstep, given the COVID conditions allow that to happen. Who is Stan Walker performing for at the matatini?
Hey, Rihanna, bro, o te ratana.
True.
Yeah, bro, standing with the whānau. Well, hey, I'm going to the muster, so COVID better hurry up and get. So go to the muster, and if I don't crack it, well, put me in the 5th, 6th line behind the thing, and I'll play the guitar.
I think that's a world exclusive, bro. So Stan Walker's performing with Te Reanga Morehu o Ratana.
Hey, that's if I'm good enough. But that is honestly, that is one of my life goals. My ultimate life goals is to stand at matatini. And there were always two groups that I've always just loved that I could see myself standing with is Rihanna and Tauira Mai Tawhiti. I just love that style, that old school tūturu, you know, the voices. And because my koro, who died, he was born and bred out the pā, so all my whānau are out the pā, and so it would be an honour and privilege to perform with my whānau. And I've just named my new album that's coming out, Te Arohanui, after my nana who died over Christmas, and she was the Pou and the marae out there, the last one. So have to.
Massive, brother. Massive, brother. Ai, mihi ana rā ki a koe I roto I rā kōrero me te whakamahara ki o tātou mate o te wā, bro. Let's start wrapping it up, bro. Hea pia tētahi kōrero whakamutunga, he kōrero whakamutunga wau, anything to wrap us up to those listeners to our, we've exceeded 765 viewers on the Taumata Kōrero tonight. That is big numbers, baby.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Any views to wrap us up tonight, bro, and finish off what has been an amazing wānanga, brother?
Oh, first of all, bro, nā mihi nui kia koe, bro. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I always feel like a bot because I feel like I'm the ultimate person, do as I say, not as I do. I think I've been around, you know, at my first radio in terms of like doing things and in spaces like this that I know how to speak, but actually from my heart, like I want people to be able to take away things because I'm still going through stuff. I'm still constantly going through stuff. There's a lot that happens behind closed doors that, especially in this time of lockdown, you know, here I am singing like stay with me, you know, doing this waiata for people. Meanwhile, I was dying inside. People don't know that. So just know that whatever people see as Stan Walker, yes, of course I can put up a post where I'm posing and a thing, but at the end of the day, this is me. The laptop's on 3 pillows. I'm on the bed. My thighs are sweating. The back of my knees are sweating. You know, like I've still got to go out there and put this boy to bed and brush his teeth, and I've got to be a good husband and clean up and cook. And you know, me and my missus, we had an argument. I've got to go and say sorry to her. So the reality of things, besides all these, you know, beautiful whakaro that, you know, that I have or that I can speak about in this being open, I want people to know that in this lockdown, like, you know, Stan Walker is not different to Roy Mata that's in Ruatoria, like, you know, and this is in like small things and big things. And I can just say that, like, I know now it is possible for anyone to be, especially for our people, Our ranatahi and even all our pakeke, kaumātua, man, it ain't over till it's over. That still the best is yet to come. And even in this lockdown, we are the most resilient people. We're the most resilient people. And like over the last 100 and something years, we've been, our way back, we're so resilient. And just know that we're all human. Be kind to one another. Be kind to one another. Encourage one another. Let people be outrageous and incredible. Don't whakaiti them. We've got a terrible way of going, ooh, you better humble yourself, but that's actually their insecurities. Like I know I'm mean at singing. I know I'm mean at what I'm doing. I'll be lying, going, oh nah, what a liar, jokes, and that's actually fake humility.
Yeah.
So just be yourself. Be kind to one another. We're all the same. And I hope anybody that's listening to this, viewing this, that people will take something out and just be encouraged and know that you're incredible. You're born for greatness. You're born for such a time as this, born for purpose. Even if you have arguments with your missus, you got to grovel, go and grovel so that you can get the next day be better.
You're not sleeping on the couch tonight.
Oh, might be. Nah.
E te tukana e stene, hi hanau ki te tuku anui ngā mihi ki a koe. For those of our whānau who are watching, who have been hiding under a social media rock, but to wrap us up, where can they find you on social media, brother?
Just type in Stan Walker and something will come up. But hey, tomorrow I got an announcement. Might as well tell you fellas here, I got a real Māori album coming out, so let's go.
Wicked. Ko pai puro. Ara, koe nei te marama puro Māori, ne? This is Māori Music
Yes.
Month, ne?
Is
Yes.
it September already? Yes, September. Aye.
Yes.
So
Massive.
yes, it comes out. Yes. So this is an exclusive. I was supposed to announce it tomorrow, but hey, now.
Oh, hey, you're spoiling me, sir, you're spoiling me. E te tuakana, he anau ki te mihi ki a koe. I roto i tō whakaitanga mai kia noho tāua ki runga i tēnei taumata kōrero o tāua i tēnei po kanui te mihi o te ngākau ki a koe. O tira koutou ko tō whānau e noho mai nei ki roto o whanganui tēnei rā te mihi nui ki a koutou e te tuakana e Stan. Ka pai rā e tātou mā, that is us done and dusted for another evening, the lockdown edition, the Taumata Kōrero Live. Shish, you got 2 scoops out of that, exclusive content. One, Stan Walker is going to perform for Te Reanga Mōrehu o Rātana, and 2, he has a 100% Te Reo Māori album coming out tomorrow. So I want everyone to get on Apple iTunes. I want everyone to get
it's announced
Spotify.
Announced Spotify.
Oh, ne?
Yeah, and got a song coming out on Thursday, one song from the album.
Put the timers on. Set your alarm, whānau, set your alarm. Good te reo Māori, wholesome content coming at you. That is us done and dusted e hoama kia hoki anora ki era kupu rongo nui ra wātu. Long live the wānanga. I am Raniera Harrison, joined by my man, my tuakana, Mr. Stan Walker. It has been a pleasure. We will see you fellas when we do. Pō Māori.